I think it's time, and I know that we've it's been a couple of weeks since we last had you. But when you do these bi-weekly podcasts, one of the most difficult things to do in preparation is come up with a really concise list of things to discuss, because so much happens in a fortnight. But such is the nightmare that has been the year 2020. We're really spoilt for choice, unfortunately. We've had endless content, if you want to call it that. Endless news, mostly negative. That we've been able to dissect. So the last fortnight, unfortunately, wasn't any different. And I kind of want to get this not necessarily out of the way, but I want to underline the importance of this particular topic by not leaving it until the end, by addressing it firsthand, so we can get into the shits and some less heavy stuff later on. I think you probably know, if you know me, what I'm talking about. If you've been, not necessarily mainstream media because they ain't covering shit, but if you've been on social media, if you know anybody who is African, if you know anybody who is, in this case specifically, Nigerian, you know that there's been some shit going on. Shit that has and continues to be a systemic cancer of my motherland. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about #EndSARS, the EndSARS movement. And I don't necessarily need to go into it, because unless you've been living under a rock, you kind of know what the situation is, right? Police brutality is extended for generations and generations in West Africa, all over the place. But specifically in Nigeria, there is a department within the police system who have been abusing their power and have become synonymous with some of the most heinous police brutality for civilians who are just minding their own business. This, over generations, as I mentioned, has been given brand new faces, brand new names. Governments have promised to address this particular department, but it's essentially just come back in a new iteration. Same people, typically, just given new titles, new uniforms, new badges, badge numbers, same gun. Same personality, and then they hit the streets. This has come to a head with a murder a few weeks ago, which was covered on Twitter, which seems to be the genesis of so many shitstorms these days.
Social movement, it's not just shitform.
Yeah, exactly. And what we have at the end of it, and I'm conscious of the fact that when you hear this, things may have progressed a little bit, but what we have had since is wide scale protests, centralized mainly in Lagos. The government have responded in the way that anybody who is familiar with the Nigerian government would expect. Piss poorly. And earlier this week, a snap decision to implement a curfew on the protesters was also met with physical violence from the police, which resulted in deaths, people being shot at night, ladies and gentlemen, at night.
And wasn't there issues with the light as well? Like,
they cut out the lights, so a lot of these protests, or the main protests, were taking place in highly lit areas. So they cut out the lights and then proceeded to shooting people in the
Innocent
dark.
bystanders as well.
Innocent bystanders, protesters, and classically, as you've seen in places like America, they've managed to blame a small minority of yobs, thugs, who, whatever they want to label them, as being the reason that they opened fire. I don't want to dwell too much on the wrong things in this discussion. And of all the problems that Nigeria has, I was born in London, raised in London, but I am Nigeria by origin. Of all the problems that Nigeria has, of which there are many, right? There's no mistake there. I didn't think that this would be the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't think this would be the thing that would bring this country to a standstill and bring about such worldwide condemnation. But here we have it. Nigeria is troubled. It's had its problems. There are real problems over there. I mean, you got to watch your mouth. You know what I mean? What you say about me, what you say about the green, white, green when you're around me. But I accept that there are some problems here. But people have been killed, and you're going to see a theme of freedom of speech throughout this. People are being killed because of their right to protest. You have to understand that. Like, we can't sugarcoat this in any other way. We have a leader of our country that has ordered the killing of their people.
That's inhumane, man. And
it's really, really hard to stomach. I was in Nigeria a month ago, as you man know, because I was burying my dad. I was in Lagos.
Rest in peace, uncle.
My mum is still, uncle. Thank you, brothers. My mum is still out there. Do you know what I mean? We've been speaking every night. My mum ain't been able to leave her house. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just too dangerous. There's nothing out there for her.
How's it been in terms of like getting food and stuff from her?
Yeah, so thankfully, like you can call in favors, and you know you got to stock up in advance and stuff like that, and like you know it's like an African household. There's a lot of rice dishes and a lot of meat and all that shit. You know
rice,
what I mean?
Meat,
like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's all good. It's not too bad, but like, and my mum's been prepared. But life is being inconvenienced, like in such a deeply, deeply compounded way in Nigeria. COVID-19 has obliterated most countries. Not just in terms of deaths, but also in terms of what the measures and the lockdowns have meant for economy, for people. Nigeria has suffered, man. Like most third world countries, they've been told by their leaders to stay their ass at home. Stay your ass at home, because this shit is rip-roaring. President Buhari, bruv, you told a country of 200 million people with 1,000 plus, just over 1,000 COVID-19 deaths. And whether or not you want to believe that number or not is fucking irrelevant. I'm sorry. You told a country of 1,000 plus deaths due to COVID to stay their ass at home because this stuff is going to spread. You gave them no financial support. You gave them nothing. Okay? Most people wake up every single day and they hustle their way to a cash in hand payment that sorts out their food for that day, the next day, at max the week. You gave them nothing. What do you expect to happen? People have zero to lose. You give them nothing, they have zero to lose. It's all connected. These people are going out onto the streets because not only are you telling them that they cannot earn and they cannot eat, but also they can't even say how angry they are about it.
I think it's probably important, just in case people aren't caught up on the topic, to give some background on what SARS is, what the hashtag means.
Please do. I'm too invested emotionally.
So, SARS is the Special Anti-Robbery Service. It's a kind of covert / elite police unit that was formally put together in the 90s. It was tasked to deal with robberies, as the title suggests, but other forms of violent crime. Its initial genesis was from an event where a colonel in the army was killed by police officers at a checkpoint, leading to soldiers going on manhunts for policemen, which led to police abandoning their posts, effectively, which, after 2 weeks of no policing, led to a spike in violent crime and caused the commissioner at the time to intervene and create a special unit without the army knowledge of stopping robberies as an act in particular. After the ceasefire was agreed in 1992 between the army and the police, they were formally put together as a unit in the Nigerian police force. And ever since then, they've been given effectively a special mandate to target what they perceive to be suspects of robbery and similar crimes. Now, the problem with what SARS has become is that it is effectively a police force that has systematically targeted young people, people who appear to have money, and people who really they don't just like the look of. There is not much beyond that. It's a very extrajudicial force that targets people almost indiscriminately. They got away with a lot of activity for a long time. So people may be asking, well, if SARS has been around since 1992, then why are people only kicking off now? Well, there was an image before that SARS, in a very fractious political society, were effectively targeting what is known in Nigeria as Yahoo boys. And Yahoo boys are people who do... So you've all heard of like the Nigerian Prince online scam, etc., etc. What really was happening was that the SARS units were targeting Yahoo boys and saying, look, you guys, like, we know what you're doing, but you need to start paying us a cut. Right. And so there was like a perception that they were targeting Yahoo boys and they were keeping a control on the online crime and they were doing some kind of business to keep down violent crime, etc., etc. What people didn't realize is that they were actually propagating online crime because these Yahoo boys had to keep going in order to pay Olga the fine. Yeah. But also people hadn't heard from their friends that they had been abused by SARS officers on the street. And it's not until this movement in particular, beginning of October this year, that people started understanding that other people had had similar experiences.
You're victims of it too.
The victims of it too. Other people got similar experiences. Now, 2020 is not the first time that this hashtag #EndSARS has come about. It's been about since 2017.
Yeah.
But it's only really taken popular hold in the last month since there have been videos going online with increasing frequency of extrajudicial direct killings by policemen of seemingly innocent citizens. It's not as if, I think maybe Nigerian citizens could understand if SARS had killed armed robbers. But what's been going on is that SARS have effectively been killing and battering innocent civilians. And there is a bit of like, Nigerian culture is kind of susceptible to consequentialism, which is like, if the end is justified, then, you know, the means that we got there by is, it's kind of all right.
100%.
But in the case where actually now people are viewing videos on Facebook and Twitter on a weekly or daily basis, where innocent people, not criminals, innocent people are being targeted, that's where the switch has been flipped.
Yeah. And while we speak about this, President Buhari has, for the first time in the whole of the month,
in months,
spoken to the people. I'm not going to get into a great deal of what he said. What I will
he didn't
speak
say much.
on, what I will speak on is this contempt that just resides in his tone every single time. Anything that he has to be held accountable for comes up. As I said, I mentioned COVID-19. That's not an isolated example, ladies and gentlemen. COVID-19 happened. The Nigerian people probably saw him speak twice. I couldn't bury my dad in 5 months because that country was closed down, bruv. Mm-hmm. I didn't see... every day when I'm at my mama's house and we're watching Nigerian news, we're seeing his crony. He isn't speaking.
But I think it's almost worse because there have been state governors. So again, we'll get into like the politics of Nigeria in a bit. But there have been state governors who've been tweeting stuff like, we are working behind the scenes.
What's behind the scenes?
But what's behind the scenes?
Zero, bro.
What's behind the scenes? This is all in front of the scenes.
A lot of those governors couldn't get through to Buhari, number one. Mm-hmm. And the ones that were, all of the ECOWAS countries, right? They all tried to get in touch, or they were encouraged to get in touch. The governor of Lagos tried to get in touch, couldn't get through to him. The only significant leader was the Ghanaian president who was able to speak to him, and he said, similar to what Johnny you just said, there's things
behind the scenes,
things are being put into place, and it's just like,
well, where's the urgency?
Where is it
behind the
scenes?
Where's it at? You know what I mean? Those are the type of questions that always, it frustrates me with, like, especially with like African governments. They love to just say things for the sake of saying things, but when you actually think about the sense of urgency, if there's something that's going on in your country and there's death involved, that needs to be like a priority. You know what I mean? That needs to be like a state of emergency. Sort of approach, rather than just we're working on things behind the scenes just to buy yourself some time. You know what I mean?
Well, look, I think Buhari has two major problems in dealing with this. One is from his own side. One is from the protester side.
Yeah.
From the protester side, this, like I mentioned, has been a very decentralized protest. There have been numerous calls for a leader to present themselves among the EndSARS movement. Deliberately, the protesters have not done that. And there is a reason that they have not done that. The reason is that, we were speaking earlier, Rich, there is a culture, and before I say this, I want to put on the record that I'm very, very proud, honorary Igbo boy.
100%.
Half raised by Igbo mama.
I feel you. You could
Half
have just
raised-
said Nigerian. I mean,
No, but I could have said
Igbo,
Nigeria. In the
just-
current context, we'll say Nigeria.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm
big
very
on my
proud of
Yoruba people, by the way. I don't know what Johnny's on Igbo.
we're going to scrap it out
joking,
after.
Easy.
You want to take it outside?
We can do it inside if you want
He's
to.
a Chuka man. He's a Chuka
Igbo
man.
boy in my
Igbo
house.
Very proud.
In this house. No,
I-
I'm joking.
I
Big on
say,
my Igbo people.
I come true here. But, list 10.
Listening.
Listen.
Very proud. Very proud. Very
Big
proud. Very
up.
proud. But there is a political and to an extent business culture within Nigeria. And the reason that Buhari is struggling to deal with the protesters is whenever there is a problem or a conflict, generally speaking, Oga or the person in control of the situation speaks to the person underneath and says, what do you want? What do you want?
Yeah.
But in order for you to ask, what do you want? There has to be someone leading the protest movement. And it's for that reason specifically that NSARS has not nominated leaders because it means that they can maintain the pressure more constantly.
100%.
Yeah.
The problem with Nigerian politics is that, generally speaking, when someone is asked what do they want, they give a price and it is met.
Yeah.
And then they think they've got a seat at the table, but actually they have a stool
100%.
and they're eating crumbs. Okay? And it's for the betterment of this movement that they maintain the widespread pressure, that they maintain a decentralized nature. It's something that we saw with the Occupy movement in the West in the late 2010s, but it's actually been done more effectively in Nigeria in 2020, that decentralized movements apply more pressure. I suppose a more effective example would be the Arab Spring, although leaders did appear eventually throughout that process, and we'll come along the parallels between kind of Nigeria and what happened in Tunisia later. But like I said, the first half of the problem for Buhari is that he doesn't have a problem that he's used to experience. He's not used to dealing with this type of decentralized nature of opposition. The other problem that Buhari has is that he is effectively a man of the security forces.
Yep.
This guy, firstly, with a very quick background, he came to power in 1983 in a military coup. He was then removed in 1985 in a military coup. Most of this guy's experience in politics is coup-based, and he lost 3 elections before he got back to power in 2015.
Yeah,
okay,
facts.
so whilst he was in power in 1983, he enacted this bizarre policy called the War Against Indiscipline. The idea of the War Against Indiscipline was to address the lack of public morality and responsibility. So they used to do ridiculous shit like they would order people in cities to form neat queues at bus stops. And if you weren't part of a neat queue at a bus stop, you would get whipped by soldiers who were holding whips. Civil servants who didn't turn up to work, they were embarrassed for not turning up. They had to do jumping jacks and shit in the office. And students who were caught cheating on exams, they could get sentenced to up to 21 years in prison, right? This guy has been a hawk.
He's a military man, guys.
This guy's been a hawk from the 80s, from the
100%,
mid-80s,
100%.
right? I think everyone should, I did it myself, everyone should read Wole Soyinka's essay called The Crimes of Buhari, and it was written before the 2000 election as basically the disbelief that Nigeria could even consider Buhari as a competent competitor
But that's the thing,
for the
right?
election.
That's the thing, right? So I remember vividly when Buhari became president,
Yeah.
and the amount of Nigerians that were
Yeah.
so like optimistic
Yeah, bro.
about the change in Nigeria
Bro.
through Buhari. Like I remember being in a barbershop, right?
Yeah.
My barbershop is a very Nigerian barbershop,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I just remember the debates that were going on, right?
yeah.
And it wasn't even a debate of like what you can and can't do. Both of them was like what you can do, but by when, you know what I mean? And that's the level of optimism I remember hearing from the people of Nigeria.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Bro, Nigerians are, such is the situation. If you come in and you sell a few lines to Nigerians, and it sounds like an alternative to the incumbent, then you're gonna do bits. And ultimately, the backdrop is it is a historically, like from a government perspective, corrupt state. You know what I mean? So, you know, we've had egregious leaders. Sonny Abacha, when he died, was like one of the first times I've seen my mum cry of just happiness because she knew what it meant potentially as a turning of the corner for Nigeria. But that was then followed by leadership after leadership after leadership. People come in with the intentions, but then they realize how much money's in the pot, and then it just becomes an embezzlement exercise for most of the part. And then their generations of kids and after them, they embezzle all that money and they store all that money. Meanwhile, the country is crumbling. And they sign off all of their contracts and all of their potential business relationships to China and to all these other fucking places across the country at the detriment of its own people. Nigerians just want roads, street lighting, consistent electricity, like a decent public transport system, opportunity, like things that we take for granted in the Western world. I'm saying it from a privileged position. I'm a fucking Brit, Nigerian Brit, but I've been born here all my life, right? And lived here all my life, sorry. But like that's it. Buhari sold the people a few lines and then he has been absent. It was buzzwords followed by bollocks, bruv.
And he picked up the
Let's keep
country.
it a buck.
He picked up the country in a very low point as well.
Yes,
it's important to remember when he
super important to add that.
when he came in 2015. Goodluck Jonathan basically had failed to deal with Boko Haram in the north. It was in the midst of the Chibok crisis with those schoolgirls that had been kidnapped by Boko Haram. The main three tenets of his election campaign were security, i.e., I will deal with Boko Haram. They were anti-corruption, i.e., there's endemic corruption in Nigeria, but I promise I'm going to be the first guy to deal with it. And then the third tenet was economic Biharism, which is basically a populist economic policy of banning non-essential imports so that you can boost domestic industry and production.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we can get to the points if you like, but he's been a failure on all three fronts. 100%. There is enormous bandit activity in the north of Nigeria, and maybe at best he has appeased Boko Haram. In terms of anti-corruption, there has been almost no difference in the activity of government ministers embezzling funds from the state. And in fact, when the guy was in power in 1983, coups generally are done in order to displace the opposition. When he formed the coup in 1983, he effectively he committed a coup on his own side and then attacked the opposition after, which means that all the ministers who were stealing from the state in 1981, 1982 were allowed to get away with it. So everyone knew that this anti-corruption platform he was running on was bullshit because he'd effectively offered amnesty in his 2015 campaign to anyone who had done anything under Goodluck Jonathan's administration anyway. And then economic Baharism has also been a complete shambles because he closed the borders to neighboring countries, which led to massive food and price inflation in many topics. And in the last 10 years, Nigeria has got a lot closer to China as a trading partner, to the extent where 80% of trade flow with China is cheap Chinese exports into the Nigerian economy, which means that actually there is no domestic production 100%. And Nigerian industry has been ruined to shit. And they've been absolutely turned over where there is now 10 times more import than export between Nigeria and China. So Baharism, anti-corruption and security have all been a failure of this guy's rule to date.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
And I want to...
Spot on, man.
And I want to wrap that up because I don't want to dive into it too much. I think we've covered on the face of things enough for you to equip yourself. Go and do your fucking research. You'll find out that what we've said here isn't anything but the real. What I will say to my Nigerian people is that I love you very much. I know the view of you across the world isn't a true reality of who you are. I know I struggle with you as a country sometimes myself. You know, I was there a month ago, as I said, and conversations were just non-stop about the potential of this place. But it is now time for us to stop talking in potential terms. Everybody who's on the front line, people who are dying, people like DJ Switch, people who are giving us the coverage, all the people who are doing bits. We love you. We thank you. Buhari, I mean, the blood is on your hands. What can I say? Shout out Namibia, shout out Congo, shout out all of the countries that are part of this, I guess, this narrative that Africa is bleeding. I don't really want to look at it that way as much. What I will say is that there are some countries in Africa that desperately need intervention. And lastly, I promised myself I wouldn't swear as much, guys. Guys, stop shaming your celebrities. Beyonce isn't going to do a great deal for this movement. Okay? Rihanna isn't going to do a great deal for this movement. Okay, she's going to bring some awareness, but that's it. But let's stop shaming people. Anthony Joshua, stop shaming him. Stop shaming people. No Nigerian is more Nigerian than any other Nigerian. Okay?
And I just wanted to add one thing for the gringos as well.
Gringos!
For the gringos. No, because there's, and I feel this, like, again, I feel this passionately in my heart as an honorary Nigerian boy. There is a perception of Nigeria as kind of like a homogenous African country. And even if one is aware that it is the most populous African country and it is the largest economy in Africa, there is still a perception that it's ultimately a homogenous country, and that's totally false. There are 36 states in Nigeria. There are up to 253 different ethnic groups. There are 500 languages. This year is the 50th anniversary of a civil war where effectively the Igbo people and the Biafra region tried to secede from independence. Even if you think of it in the most simple terms, there are arguably 3 different countries within Nigeria: the North, the East, and the West. It is a beautifully diverse country.
Amen.
Beautifully
Amen.
diverse country. It is the 25th biggest country in the world by GDP, but it's unfortunately only the 130th biggest in the world by per capita GDP. That speaks to the income inequality. But most importantly, and this one actually fucking blew my mind when I read this, it has the 3rd largest youth population in the world.
Yes.
The 3rd largest youth population in the world after India and China, the 3rd largest youth population in the world. And when you look at the cultural influence of Nigerians outside of Nigeria, how many British celebrities, black British celebrities, have Nigerian roots? You cannot tell me that there isn't unlimited potential in a country that has a coastline, has savannah, has mountains. It snows in Nigeria, gringos. Just to let you know, it snows in Nigeria. There are mountains where it snows in Nigeria.
What? So you reckon they got skiing there?
I don't know.
That we don't. Imagine skiing in Nigeria. No,
we can build the young
I ain't
resort.
skiing full stop, bro.
Yeah, but imagine that, skiing in Nigeria. That's wavy.
It snows. It snows in Nigeria.
I'm scared.
Basically, it's effectively Nigeria is the same size as Venezuela, and Venezuela is also a country that is blessed. It has cities. It has coast. It has tropical areas. It has I can't remember what the fucking phrase is, but it's like it has the 5 biospheres or whatever. And Nigeria is very similar, but Nigeria is blessed as Venezuela is with black gold under the sea, but it has an enormous youth population, and that is the driver of this protest. That will be the future of the country.
Yeah.
And we just need to help these people have the energy. Africa has a problem with elderly leaders. And
that was my next point. Johnny, thank you.
Jump that.
Stop voting for these old saggy fucks. Stop it. We need people with vision. We need people who aren't long in the teeth and have all of these political bullshit connects which are to the detriment of the countries they supposedly want to serve. There is a trend. Go and list your world leaders. Look at their age. I don't care if this makes me sound ageist, guys. I'm sorry. This has got to stop at some point.
Them old pa.
These old fogies who don't care about you. There's a lot that comes with being old. But one thing is consistent, guys. They don't give a fuck about the youth.
6 out of 10 of the oldest serving heads of government in the world are in Africa. 6 out of 10.
Can you imagine?
6 out of 10.
Can you imagine?
6 out of 10.
One more time. Can you say that one more time, Johnny?
Hey, one more time,
6
please.
out of 10 of the oldest serving heads of government in the world are in Africa, and even
that's what I thought you said.
So
now.
even more problematic.
Yeah,
I find actually is that 9 of the 15 longest incumbent heads of government are also in Africa.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,